What's up y'all, Jay Immaculate here. In this video I'll be going over a drum sequencing technique I use with the Dirtywave M8. The M8 sequencer is locked to the grid, and there is a parameter called DEL which you can use to move notes between steps. However, I find that it lacks the precision that a sequencer that allows you to record unquantized notes gives. So to work around that, I'll take drum sample hits and clone them so there are 2 hits in a single sample, and then adjust the start point for the individual notes in the sequence to slightly move them off the grid by moving the start point away from the transient. This is similar to a technique I use on pocket operator drum sequences. Alright, let's get to it. Here I'm using the M8 Model 2 running the 4.0 firmware. However, this works with Model 1 and previous firmware versions as well. Let's put together a kit. I'll start with the snare. And next, a kick. At this stage, I'm building a very simple pattern just so I can hear all the sounds together. Once I've got the kit assembled, I'll modify the sequence to give it more groove and swing. And last up is the hi-hat. Here I used the quick fill shortcut by holding Shift, then pressing Option twice. Once the empty cells are selected, I hold Option and press left until I get the Fill 2x option. I'm going to shape the sound of the hi-hat a bit before adjusting the sequence. First I'll set the degrade to 1 to give it a bit crush sound. Then I add a low pass filter and trim off a bit of the high end. This is a good opportunity to shape the kick as well. From the instrument page, I assign the kick to EQ 0 and adjust the low, mid, and high frequencies. This EQ feature was very recently added in the 4.0 firmware update, and it's incredibly useful. I definitely recommend updating your device if you're on a previous firmware version for this feature alone. Okay, now that I've assembled the kit, I'm going to use the duplicate technique to nudge some of these notes around, starting with the hi-hat. From the instrument page, select Edit to get to the sample edit screen. From here, move your cursor down to the Process option and hold Edit and press right until you see the Duplicate option. With Duplicate highlighted, press Edit to duplicate the selection, then save the sample. I navigate back to the phrase page for the hi-hat sequence, and then I add the STA effect to each note in the sequence. I then select all the values in the FX1 column by holding Shift and pressing Option twice. With everything selected, I'm going to set the parameter to 80, which is starting at the halfway point of the sample. Because we cloned the sample, having the start point halfway through sounds exactly the same as when it was playing from the start. However, now I can select all the values, and when I hold Edit and press down or left, it moves the start point of all the notes further from the transient. In essence, we're nudging the notes off the grid by slightly shifting back the sample start time. Once I have a base value set for the notes to be shifted, here I use 75, I then adjust individual STA parameters for various notes. I don't really have a pattern or specific idea in mind when doing this, I just want the values to vary slightly so that the sequence doesn't sound quantized. And of course, adjusting the velocity of the notes is equally important, so I move those around as well. We'll do the same thing with the kick, starting with using the duplicate function on the sample edit screen. Now from the phrase page, I'll set the start point to 80 for all the notes, and I'll add a few extra notes. On step 2, I want the kick to come in a little late, so I addition a few values less than 80 before settling on a number. Next, I add a kick to step 7. This double kick pattern is a classic boom bap arrangement, but will only work if we can have this kick come in right before the kick on step 8. So I adjust the STA value lower and lower until it sounds about right. And I add one more kick to step E. This is generally more kicks than what I work with in a single bar. The reason why I put this many in is because I'm going to clone this phrase so the kick sequence is 2 bars long instead of 1 bar, then remove a kick from one of the phrases and remove a kick from the other phrase, which will create some variety in the sequence. First, I select all the notes in phrase 20, then I paste them all into the blank phrase 21. Then I delete the kick on step E from phrase 20 and the kick on step 2 from phrase 21. One other thing I like to do with some of the kicks is turn on a low pass filter with a low frequency for some of the notes. I find that it can change the kick sound just enough to keep the sequence interesting. The cut FX controls the cutoff frequency for the filter, so I'll add a cut effect on the kick on step E and adjust the value until it sounds different. I like that sound, so I'll add that cut effect to the other ghost notes in the sequence. The last thing I'll add is an open hi-hat. Just like with the kick and the closed hat, I'm going to duplicate the open hat so I can adjust the start point and delay when it's triggered. The other thing I do here is silence the audio of the first half of the sample. I actually forgot to do this on the other samples, but it usually doesn't cause any problems unless you have a sample that doesn't have any silent space or tail at the end. Now I'm going to add the open hat to the sequence. Just like with the phrases with the kick, I'm going to copy the hi-hat phrase to a new phrase so that it's 2 bars long, and then add the open hi-hat to the second bar. So now that I've got it about where I want it, I'll adjust the STA parameter until it triggers at a point that I like. To illustrate the difference this technique can make, let's listen to a completely quantized arrangement, then the arrangement we just made. This technique has the most pronounced effect on kicks and hi-hats, but you could use it for any sound in your arrangement. It's a quick and easy way to get your drums swinging on a device like this that's locked to the grid. Well, that does it for this video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.